For this tutorial, I'm just going to talk you through a few of the basic raw slider editing tools. Now, once you switch over to using raw files, if you're using a Canon, you'll see them called CR2, and if they are Nikons, they will be called NEF files. So, what you must do is you must drag your image down into the Photoshop icon, and it will open up as it would had you opened up as a JPEG in Photoshop. This is the basic editing palette, so we've got things like temperature and tint. I tend to use a lot of the exposure, the saturation, a lot of the clarity, and then I tend to use the blacks and white sliders a lot as well. So this is what I can do. First of all, exposure. So it'll make it darker or brighter as you want. Clarity is interesting. If you move it down one way to the left, it will make it all soft focus. However, if you move it all the way to the right, it will make it more hard-edged and more defined, which is quite nice for architecture buildings, although you've got to be quite careful you don't overdo it and just sort of place it right at the top. So, because even though it makes all of this area here a lot nicer, it's made this little kind of concrete area here a bit too grainy. So I'm just going to calm that down a bit. The saturation, there's not much colour in this image, but if there were, and you moved your saturation right to the top, you can see it overloads it with colour. If you go the other way, it'll make it into black and white. Now I quite like images which sit somewhere in between black and white and colour. That's just a preference, but with this slider here, you've got that option of doing that. Your contrast, the more to the left you go, the greyer it becomes, and more to the right, then the probably more graphic-y it looks. I'm just going to put that back there. This just controls your highlight, so you can see if you look at the whiter areas, you can see that that's being controlled by the highlight. The shadows, obviously the darker areas, if you keep an eye on this, okay, that will just control shadows in the photograph. Again, the whites, this will control your sky and all the other white areas within the image. And again, this will control any of the black areas and any of the darker areas within the image. So that is for you to balance it according to the type of image you want. You need to be quite careful with vibrance and with temperature and tint, because they tend to, let me just see, at the moment tint is +7, but it'll give you sort of green and pink photographs which you just want to just leave really. So you don't really want to mess around with too much with tint, and the same thing with temperature. Okay, so that's all in the basic, the basic colour palette. And then you've got lots of different things you can do. Change the tones. So if you click on that, again, it's a similar thing. You can just look at the highlights in the image. So around here, if you look at the highlights, it will change. So you can set them, and you can set. So you'll go for the dark ones. You can see it's just finer edits than the basic palette. Okay. In this one, this is sharpening. So if you maybe look at this area here and concentrate on that, if I move the amount of sharpening up, you will see that it does change. So if I maybe make the radius a bit bigger. So this is it without any sharpening at all. So again, keep an eye out on this bit here. And then that's it with sharpening. So it does. And again, if you look at this row of windows here, if you look at that row without any sharpening, that row with sharpening, you might think, oh, I can't see any difference. But now, keep looking at it while I move it back. You see it goes slightly more out of focus. So I'm just going to put the sharpening up a bit to around here. You've then got, so if there was any blues in the photograph, you can just control the blues by moving what was the blue by controlling this slider here, and if there was anything that was green, which was the tree in the image, then you can control that just by that. You see the green in that tree changing, so that will only change anything that was green to start with. Okay. These are more advanced editing tools like split toning and lens corrections, but just for now, I think maybe just practicing with the basic editing, maybe the toning and some sharpening as well. And also you can and then it will open it up in Photoshop for you. And then if you want to, you can make even more adjustments to it. Okay. Now before I would save this and put it onto Tumblr, I would put a little black border around it, but you can see the layer palette's missing. So if that happens, you go to Window, click on Layers, and then the layer palette's open. Okay. So all I would do, if I take this off, you can see it's this, because it's a white sky, because it was very cloudy that day, it's not going to have a strong contrast against the white background. So right click, duplicate the layer, click on FX, click on stroke, 2 pixels inside, OK, and then layer and flatten. Always remember to go to image and image size, make sure it's 15 by 10. As you can see, this image is too big, so change it to 15 by 10, and OK. And that's it, that image is ready to upload to Tumblr. OK, so that's the end of the raw sliders tutorial. OK, thank you.